So hello, my name is Olya, and I'm in charge of operations in Quantive. So I understand and know and sometimes manage on the campaigns on our client side as well as the team inside, and trying to stay behind the scenes, but know about everything that is happening in our company. So also I wanted to ask everyone to drop your first name, last name, and email into our chat now. I'll take this chance to ask you about that so we could send everyone contact details later. And I'm located in Czech Republic. And I will pass it to Caitlin.
Hello, my name is Caitlin. I am the founder of Honey and Hive, or a digital marketing and design agency. I actually work with Dave at Comerit as one of my clients. I help businesses establish their marketing strategy, typically small businesses and startups, and we offer a variety of marketing services, including social media, paid ads, a lot of email marketing, strategic messaging, website, you name it, we can do it. One of our benefits is that we offer a lot of services in-house and manage those services so that our clients do not need to manage 10 vendors. They can spend more time focusing on essential business tasks. I'm located in the Bay Area, and I'm really excited to learn more about the tech space and sales specifically, and how to integrate sales and marketing more, especially in the tech space. So thank you, Mark and Olya, for putting this together.
Thanks, Caitlin. And let's see, let's go to Ramona. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And they may not be available right now. So let's go to Jaden.
Hey everyone, I'm Jaden. I'm located in Tracy, California. It's only an hour away from San Francisco. I work for Comerit, so David Caspillo here is my boss. And just to kind of reiterate what he said, you know, we're a global advanced analytics implementation firm. We help organizations transform globally from a data standpoint. My particular role is I'm an inside sales associate and sourcer. So I basically spend my time generating new opportunities as well as guiding our consultants through the recruiting process, bringing them in and then working them through all the way to establishing them with our client.
Great, thanks, Jaden. And have we heard from Joseph?
Hey guys, good afternoon. I'm Joseph. I run operations at Foresight Technologies. We're a cloud consulting partner, so we focus on AWS, GCP, and Azure, and I'm based in Philly.
All right, great,
guys.
Yeah, good to meet you. And last name Jairus. I'm not sure how to pronounce the first name. Maybe they're not.
Mateusz Jairus.
Yeah, maybe they're not available. And did we hear from Andrew, the other Andrew?
We did not. So I'm a consultant. I live up in Bend, Oregon, and I focus on early stage companies and basically helping them on the go-to-market strategy.
Great, thank you. Did we miss anybody? Okay, well, thanks again, everyone, for joining us. And hopefully this will be of benefit to you. I'll go ahead and get started in what we have to talk about today. And I'll go ahead and share my screen. So what our hope is, by the end of this webinar, you will be able to, and we called it a webinar, but it's really anti-webinar, but be able to utilize Agile in your sales outbound efforts, identify the best key performance indicators. You'll be able to craft some effective messaging that gets results, and turn your cold outreach into personal outreach. So we're going to talk a little bit about the difference between historically what we've all referred to as cold outreach. We like to refer to what something that's a little more effective called personal outreach. And again, as you have questions about as we go through here, please feel free. I can't really see everyone, so don't worry about raising your hand. Just go ahead and speak. So Quantive Group has been doing this for 3 years now. And, my background is in solution selling of technology, but I'm also a developer. So I've developed a lot of different internet web software over the years. And this Quantive was founded on a lot of my experience in acquiring, not just acquiring, but finding and acquiring new clients. But what we did over the past 2 years, we have spoken, believe it or not, to over 700 founders, level executives, just like you. And in these conversations, we've talked to them about their sales and marketing strategies. And what we have found is some very common gaps in what they have told us that their challenges are. And they may not have said this is a challenge, but they explained it to us and we identify it as a real challenge. So number one is little to no market discovery and product market validation. So what we mean by that is, they have maybe won a few clients or gotten clients through relationships or however they've acquired them. And they haven't really reached out to a volume of folks within a market in order to really do a more thorough market discovery and validate their products. And so they go after a certain strategy without, a true market validation and discovery. And so it really creates a problem for, some of their efforts. And we found that it makes it more difficult for them to really establish good data for client acquisition. Also, what we found is kind of one size fits all strategy. And maybe Olya, you could tell us a little more about, that item, what you've seen with that.
Yeah, so depending on the ideal client profile, and so there are different. Okay, so we would like to. There are different ideal client profiles that should be used for different companies, right? Because different companies, they target different people, and those people, they have different interests. They even are active on different platforms. And what we found is that it's common, but it's one of the mistakes is to use the same message across different ideal client profiles, or just try one platform and not test with the other platforms where they potentially might be more active, or try just one source to get the list of those people and not be creative enough to come up with different lists that would include, for example, conferences, past and future conferences, or groups that would have something in common. So basically, any customization when it comes to strategizing on where to get the list of potential prospects and opportunities might be good to use in the future. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you for that. And along with that, we've also seen a lack of competitive analysis. And what we mean by that is just the most simple thing of typing into Google what the offering is and see what comes up. So, that's one of the things that we encourage our clients to do, because many times just that simple exercise will produce some really interesting results to see how many other companies have almost the exact same messaging or exact same offering. And a lot of times we, it's a simple thing, and we actually do it as a company with Quantive as well. The other challenge that we've seen is vague or no KPIs from, lead generation companies, or unrealistic promises of, getting so many meetings or so many sales, or, those types of things as well, that, really it's kind of like just moving forward with an effort without really measuring it and monitoring what's happening. And along with that is a lack of a scientific data approach. So it's almost like many companies feel like, you can just hit an easy button and stuff's going to happen. We have found that unless you're really looking at the data and analyzing what's coming back with a lot of the efforts, it is really difficult to come up with patterns and predictions in the effort. Any comments or questions on this? Anyone seen this or been aware of these types of challenges within your organization? So, some of the things that we've found as some patterns. So one thing that we have seen, and this is all based on these 700 plus meetings and feedback that we're getting as to why many times lead gen fails to be effective. And some of the common reasons that we see. Oh, and by the way, if everyone could, if you wouldn't mind muting, that would be great. We're getting a little bit of background noise as well from some folks. Some common reasons why lead gen isn't really as effective, and we've gotten this from some of our prospects and clients and meetings, is the lead gen process is not mapped to the business development cycle. And if you have some thoughts on that, Olya, you can jump right in and tell us some of the things that you've seen as well.
Yeah, so one of the most common mistakes that we have seen is that, especially we talk to different lead gen companies a lot. We evaluate some of them as potential vendors, and the mistake that we see is that they stop their activity at generating a meeting, and then it's up to the company to qualify that meeting and to take that meeting to proposal and to new business. And in our approach, we like to look from the very beginning to starting from some pre-meeting activities that we are doing for Quantive, and we also apply it for all our clients. Right to the close, to when this lead signs proposal and the new business is closed.
Right, and so whatever that activity is, and we in our company we prefer to call it meeting generation, but if it is leads that are generated, we want to look at the data as to where the successes are as well as the failures. And we want to reverse engineer the successes so that we can maximize that effort. And then we also want to look at the failures so that we can maybe not put as much effort into the areas that aren't responding, or the ICPs, or the messaging. So it's really applying that agile process so that it's, again, something that is improving over time, and you're making more data-driven decisions. And we're looking at the whole sales cycle, as Olya said, from the very beginning of where the data comes from, and where and how closed business is happening. And we like to look at things that might be differentiators for your company, and also messaging that's going to be unique in order to get meetings, good meetings on your calendar. The other thing that we see is the buyer persona, or the qualified lead, has not really been defined and developed. And again, we're taking a very data approach to this. So we're looking very closely at those, what we call ICPs, or those ideal client profiles. And we're really picking apart not only what industries, what size companies, what titles of the person that you're meeting with within those companies, maybe geographic location. There are also other types of data sets that we look at in order to start to see patterns in the data. And as we start to see these patterns emerge of successes or failures, that's where we can start to make some decisions as to, where you're getting traction within a certain market and with a certain type of messaging. The other thing that we really want to focus on that we see where this effort fails is the quantity or the quality and not the quantity. And you may have a quantity at the beginning, but we want to focus on the quality so that as we go through the agile process, you might start out 1 out of 10 of your meetings is a good meeting. Well, we want to improve so that it turns into 2 out of 10, 3, 4, 5 out of 10. And if that's not happening, we want to go back and look at what is the messaging, what are the ICPs, why aren't we getting quality meetings? And that's one of the KPIs that we look at so that we're not just, glad that we're getting some type of quantity.
Now, one person from Belkin responded to that email.
Was that a comment for me?
Dr. Who? Row. Who's Row?
Could everyone mute?
Oh.
Oh, thanks. Okay, we're getting some of this conversation. So the other thing is realistic expectations. This is a really important part. Again, many times we've found, and even with our dealing with lead gen companies, is they will promise a lot in order to get the sale, get you signed up. But it's really not good expectations that are set up front, simply because it's difficult to have control over or even know what a market is and what messaging is going to work for them. And so we've found that by focusing our efforts only on technology and technology companies, it's given us a real advantage in understanding how to set realistic expectations so that, after the end of 30, 60, or 90 days, we want to make sure that those expectations are clear as to what the deliverable is and what's going to happen. And we always like to say the key deliverable over everything is data. And the data is going to show us whether we're failing or succeeding. And it's okay to fail. And as long as we fail fast and we learn from those failings. So it's okay that a lot of meetings are bad. That's okay, as long as we make sure that we learn from that and we change something going through those agile iterations and process. The purchased or rented email lists aren't relevant, or they're old lists. And I think, Olya, we've seen that happen where we'll get old lists from clients or things that they've used in the past. Or they purchase lists. And to us, the source of the data, the source of the contacts or the email list or whatever, that's just another data point that we look at and we run through Agile. So if you're getting it from, what are some of the data sources? Apollo is one of them. There's several others. We actually scrape data off of directories. We look at Zoom Info. And again, we're looking at the KPI, which data source is producing the best KPI. And if that data source isn't really doing a good job of having relevant data, then we'll look at other data sources. Another reason is the sales team is operating blind and not really collecting data. So it's kind of that definition of insanity. Keep doing the same thing over and over, expect a different result. And one of the reasons for that is not really digging into the data and looking closely at it so that you don't just keep doing the same thing over and over and hope something different is going to happen.
Hey, Mark, this is David.
Yes.
I'm going to need a drop, but if I could just make one comment here.
Sure.
Coming from a data and analytics organization, we look at all industries, relevant data, marketing, sales, and everything. I do want to mention, you mentioned we definitely want to fail fast when you're going through this, but also expectation wise, it may take a little while to get enough data to do the correct analysis to make changes. That's the only thing I would qualify that, you know, don't get frustrated early because it does require that data. I mean, you have to have data to make changes and have insight. So, but it is part of the process. And I can tell you that the organizations that we work with that understand that there is a process in integrating and bringing in data, and that there's a time frame where, hey, we've got to analyze this. Yes, we want to get to it as quick as we can, but some things just come in over time, and that's just something to be aware of. It's even for us when we went through the exercise market. It's like I would love to have another deep year look at data to revisit some messaging and targeting actual titles and stuff like that. That's the longer you do it, obviously, the better and easier it will get at being more accurate. So anyways, I thought I'd leave you with that. I've got to run. Thank you so much for putting this together, and I'll look forward to the next one.
Yeah. Thanks. Appreciate that. And just to piggyback on that comment, yeah, that is exactly right. So one of the things that happens is the larger the organization you want to go after, like Fortune 500, Fortune 1000, you have to realize that it's going to be really difficult to get the volume of meetings and the volume of data in a shorter period of time. It's going to take longer, depending on what titles. Like if you're going after the C execs in Fortune 1000, you're gonna have to become really, really creative to get those meetings on your calendar. And so the data sets are gonna, be a little bit more sparse. So one of the things that, we look at is how can we find ways of getting marketing intel by having meaningful meetings with a volume of folks, even within Fortune 1000 or Fortune 500. So there's some creative things that we can do in order to try and get more data. But the further down the food chain you go, the more meetings you can get, the more data, and it does make it easier. But yeah, David's exactly right. It does take time to get the volume of data needed in order to, make some good strategic decisions. So what's the solution? What we have found in the past 3 years of going through this and working and talking to many technology companies and their approach, and frankly, a lot of the approach is very, very old. I mean, 20 years old. This is something that is usually pretty new to them, because it's really taking marketing and sales and business development and looking at it more as a process with data analytics on top of it. So by applying agile to all of these outbound sales efforts, it changes things, and it makes it more meaningful, and it actually gives the ability to improve over time. Just like when you're building software or doing any type of technology integration or deployment, by applying agile, you do things in smaller iterations. And instead of having annual strategies, it's more of a 30-day micro strategy. And that's why we do micro campaigns. And so you learn a lot more quicker. Clear APIs is very important, and that's measuring basically what is happening. And what we have found over and over again is these 3 key performance indicators really help drive things forward. Meaningful meetings that lead to a proposal, that lead to a close. And if those KPIs aren't around the effort, you tend to be doing this effort in a sense of you feel like you're doing something to move forward. But if you put that KPI around it, then you can really determine whether or not you are moving toward new client acquisition, and you're not just doing activity, which, I mean, marketing and any of those activities, can be helpful. We just encourage you to really measure the the indicators of how you're having success. And even though we say, you know, these are key performance indicators, there are other indicators before these. But the meaningful meeting seems to be kind of that focal point of where it is really becomes key as an indicator of whether that activity is generating something that could potentially lead to revenue. The other thing is a definite process, and we're going to, you know, go over a couple of things that we've found, and we do have templates of processes that we use and that some of our clients use, but it's basically looking at cradle to grave from the minute you identify a prospect or a lead or a company all the way to the end of where you actually acquire as a client. You know, what does that look like? What are the things that happen from that, you know, whole life cycle? And again, it's really, you know, most of us as technology consultants, we are very familiar with going in and using software or technology to improve processes. Really, that's basically what we're doing here. It's no different. And when we started Quantive, we basically put our process engineering hat on, the same thing that I used for Honda and Kroger for their internal processes. We basically looked at cradle to grave, the whole business development, as another process that can be defined and put the logic to it and improve it over time. The other thing is a feedback loop, and this doesn't have to be real complicated. One of the things that we look at is feedback from the meetings that happen and making sure that that data is captured and that we're looking at, you know, what's happening with those meetings, where did they come from, what was the messaging, what was the ICP, what was the effort that produced that, and looking at those and giving feedback to the team that's actually executing on a lot of the outbound efforts, so that you don't want this team that's doing all this outbound, you don't want them just continuing what they're doing. You want to get them this feedback, and you want an organization that is got a process to take that feedback and make sense of it and take action on it, so that way the agile process is actually working. The other thing that we have found over the years is ongoing market validation is important. Whatever your messaging and offering is today doesn't mean that it's going to resonate as well 12, 24, 36 months from now. So continuing this process will help you stay ahead of the curve as language changes, problems change, the way they're described, what differentiates you as the market gets crowded and more people get into your space. What are you going to do to stand out above the crowd? Well, by continuing this process, it can help you stay ahead of that. And by continuing to use Agile, listen to the market, validate your solution, make sure that it's solving the current problems the way that they're describing them. You know, those are things that we've found that the Agile process can help with it. And what we do internally is vendor assessment. So we're looking at many outsourced business development companies, SaaS products, automation. We're continuing as consultants to look at all of these tools and services and products that facilitate business development and from the outbound perspective, and then continue to use and recommend the best of what's out there. So just to briefly go through some of these things, and we did this more in detail, and this is the core of Agile, is basically this 4-step process. Create micro campaigns. So you're reaching out to not thousands, but hundreds. Execute on it through various means of your activity of reaching out to these folks through social media, voicemail drops, email, whatever it might be. And so you're only doing hundreds. So you come back with data analysis of what happened with that activity. And then you come up in number 4 with some of your conclusions of market validation. And then you rinse and repeat and continue to go through this cycle. As you go through it, your micro campaigns, you're going to want to change your messaging. And when I say change, tweak it. If you're not getting the result, tweak your ICP, who you're reaching out to. Continue to go through these cycles of continuous improvement so that you drive things forward through this agile process. And a lot of times we found that these are good in 30-day cycles. You're executing maybe not on one, but multiple micro campaigns at the same time. And so you can look at the retrospective on a 30-day cycle. Any question on this agile process? So we discussed the KPIs. They should be very clear. And what is a meaningful meeting? Well, a lot of times you're going to have to define that yourself. We like to say, you've got a meaningful meeting will a lot of times result in a proposal. And if not a proposal, it'll result in another follow-up of a discovery or something that's moving forward. Again, the sales funnel should be something that's more of a conveyor belt and it's moving constantly. So everyone on it is either moving to become new business or going into some archive area to maybe reach out to them at a future point. So that's why we like these KPIs of, that first one of being a meaningful meeting that leads to proposal and potentially to new business. And if these KPIs aren't being met, then we want to revisit, why and what effort do we need to change in order for these KPIs to happen. And again, the process, we've mapped this out for Quantiv and we've looked at it for our other clients as well. We basically want to look at what happens before a meeting. And once a meeting is scheduled and you do move into proposal, what are the steps that happen? And we certainly can help you, in mapping this out. And it's good to do. It doesn't have to be, really intricate. We try to keep it pretty simple. And basically, Olya has done a good job of putting this together for Quantiv to show the flow of qualifying the meeting. Once the meeting hits the calendar, did the meeting happen? If it didn't, was it rescheduled? And just kind of going through that. And then once the meeting did happen, did they get a statement of work? Were they a valid ICP? If they weren't, any meetings that weren't good, we don't want to delete them. We want to put them in a bucket so we can do a postmortem and analyze those so that the team that's doing the outbound can continue to learn what good ICPs are and what bad ones are as well. The feedback loop, a lot of times we have maybe a small form to fill out or a spreadsheet to fill in of, geographic location, were they a decision maker, what was the industry. We like a rating. We usually use like a 1 to 5 rating of what if their ICP was relevant, if they were interested, they had a budget, is the timing good, did we send a statement of work or a proposal. We also want to collect, and again, some of this data is happening before the meeting because we already know what the ICP is. And so some of these things we do.
Mark, are you with us?
He froze.
Yeah, I think he needs to reconnect.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Sorry about that. I don't know what happened. Got dropped off. Okay. Can everyone see my screen now?
Mhm.
Okay, great. So the last slide is the vendor assessment, and this is something that we're going to make available. We're basically looking at many different automation tools for LinkedIn, for email, for voicemail drops, also other business development outsourced companies and services. We're doing an analysis on their features, their functions, their costs, and some of the things that might be helpful in looking at multiple different. Some of them are lead gen companies. A lot of them are SaaS companies with automation. Some of them we actually use, some of the tools we use in-house. So we thought that might be helpful to make that available to everyone. So that's basically the end of the presentation. Any questions anyone has or anything?
Hi, sorry. This is Matthew speaking. I was just wondering if you could reiterate the time frame for your agile process. Did you say it was about 30 days in terms of meeting the agile processes?
Yeah, what we found that I know agile a lot of times when you do software development, it's weekly or bi-weekly. We've found that a 30-day cycle is good because you simply just don't have enough data and enough activity in order to do something sooner as far as a retrospective. No, that's a good question.
Would you say that also applies in terms of the lead generation aspect as well, or is it just for in terms of the meetings?
Yeah, both. We kind of put all of that together. Now, one of the things we do on a weekly basis is as we're seeing successes or lack of success, we'll do some micro adjustments during that month in order to do things that'll get more meetings on the calendar. So the team is actually practicing a little bit of agile during those 30 days, but we don't like to really do a complete retrospective until we have like 30 days worth of data. Then we're looking at, all of the lead gen activity and then whatever meetings came of it. And really looking at, we have like APIs into LinkedIn and into our email and phone outreach. So we'll bring all that data into a spreadsheet and graph it out as far as, what industries, what titles, what locations were responding or not responding, and then also what messaging was used to get response from folks.
Okay, great. And I was just sorry, one last question. In terms of like the last, you evaluate every 30 days, and on average, like how many samples would you have in 30 days?
Yeah, I mean, and again, I always like to say, it depends on what you're selling and who you're trying to sell it to. If it's on the low end and there hasn't been a lot of market discovery or the market's crowded and there's a lot of competition with same message, you may have a few meetings even within 30 days. You may have, 5, 6 meetings. If you have a really good market and you have a great message that's resonating, you could get up to 50 meetings a month. With that. So it's going to be anywhere in between there. But if you are on the low end, like I said, we like to say, failure's only bad if you don't learn from it and try something different. So we're going to be challenging we challenge our companies on their messaging and also who they're reaching out to if they're not really getting the volume of meetings that they're wanting to see.
Great, thanks so much.
Great questions, though. Yeah, and that's all part of when we do our kickoff meeting and our analysis of what a company where they've had success and where they're at. We try to help set some of those expectations on the front end so they know what to expect within the 30, 60, and 90-day period.
Yeah, Mark, this is Ted from Prodigo. I would just support some of your comments by saying to the group, those who have not been through the process, I've been with Mark for almost what, a year and a half, almost 2 years, Mark. And
Yeah.
it's important to follow a short kind of agile process, because you don't know how your messaging is going to be received. You know, you might find that in the first part of it, the first a month or so, that you don't get a lot of traction. So you can go back and say, well, maybe my message isn't right, tweak that a bit and redo that, and then get better results. I've seen that it does happen, where the message you first put out might not be really on point with what you're trying to say, and the responses will prove that. You just won't get either connections or calls. And then as you tweak the messaging and also tweak the audience, because sometimes I found where there's not a lot of contacts in my area, healthcare supply chain, so you kind of branch out to data and IT and operations sometimes, and with varying results. So if you have a small group of like contacts that you're trying to go after, it's important to really kind of cycle that messaging through to see what sticks, because sometimes it doesn't. But I've seen where on the second line of messagings to the same audience, you get some connections that you didn't get the first time. So, it's a game where you just have to keep kind of making your message more pointed, better, maybe worded differently, or with some hooks in it that might get you some meetings that you didn't expect. So it's definitely a good process to follow, and it's the short game that's important, not the long game.
Yeah, thanks, Ted. Really appreciate that. Well, I appreciate everyone. Sorry, I got to run another meeting coming up, but thanks everyone for being on. Hopefully this was helpful to you. And Olya can send out the presentation to anyone that wants it. Just request it of her. And hopefully we got everybody's contact information in the chat. We will be sending out an invite for next month, and have another good topic I think everyone will like on more specifically on LinkedIn itself. So anyways, thanks again, and everyone have a great day.
All right. See you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.